India is the world's largest democracy, yet last year, the Pew Research Center listed the country as the fourth worst in the world for religious intolerance. So far this year, the violence seems to be getting worse. In recent days, we've received some fresh examples of ongoing persecution against the Christian minority. On January 20th, in the state of Tamil Nadu, a pastor was found hanging from the rafters of his church. His body had visible signs of torture. Yet local officials said he committed suicide. And 4 days earlier in Jammu Kashmir, a church and several Christian businesses were set ablaze by an irate mob angered over the Christian burial of a former Hindu. Now, here to explain is Wilson Chowdhury. His group monitors religious freedom violations in Pakistan and India. Wilson, thanks for joining us again. So tell us what happened to Pastor Gideon in Tamil Nadu.
Again, the actual incident itself is very unknown, but what happened on Saturday when parishioners were about to attend the church for a prayer and fasting meeting, they discovered that the gates to the church were locked. They managed to climb over the courtyard fence and gate, opened the gates and discovered the pastor had been hung from the rafters of his church. And there were visible signs of in the form of bruising and welts across his body, indicating that he had been tortured for some time before his life was taken away. I mean, obviously, it was a very gruesome sight. The men released him from the noose, contacted the police. However, when the police arrived, they seemed to take a very whimsical attempt at initiating any investigation and registered the incident as a suicide, which is not unusual for pastors who are being killed, especially in the form of hanging in the church.
Yeah, and this pastor had no signs of depression or that he had been even contemplating killing himself. But also, I understand there was a ring on his finger that was missing. So what can you tell us about that and about the man and his church?
Well, the Pastor Gideon is a well-known preacher in the local community, a man who is noted for his extended deep prayerful sessions that would last between 5 to 6 hours. He was happy. His church was growing very rapidly. I mean, there are various pieces of evidence that would highlight foul play, including a missing gold ring from his finger. There was also, as I said, the signs of the welts and the bruises that would indicate some form of torture. This was a particularly special day in which a large number of the church were about to attend for prayer and fasting. It would seem very unusual for a man to commit suicide before that without leaving a note explaining why he was doing what he was doing.
Now Wilson, wasn't that church threatened in the past because they were evangelizing Hindus?
The church had been threatened on several occasions, including death threats being made to the pastor. The pastor had reported those to the police, and the police were very aware of this.
So what are the chances that there will be a murder investigation opened?
The parishioners led a protest in the town centre on one of their main thoroughfares, blocking the roads, and many other Christians have joined them. We're hoping, obviously, with the large number of people and some of the media attention that has now started to emerge around the subject, that police will be forced to undertake an appropriate investigation.
I understand in Jammu Kashmir, a mob became so irate, they burned Sahal Christ Church. Why did they do that?
We have a video of that on our website, which people can view on www.britishpakistanichristians.org, and you can see the streams of extremist Hindus marching onto the church. They were offended by the fact that a Christian man who had converted from Hinduism and whose wife had then joined him into the Christian faith, they were offended by the fact that he tried to bury her with a Christian burial, despite the parents wanting her to have a Hindu burial. Now, I remind you, this woman did convert to Christianity, so it was very appropriate for her to have a Christian burial. There were accusations being made by the parents that the man had murdered his wife. which were completely fallacious. I mean, he'd been praying at several churches for her healing. They'd seen God grant her an extended 2 years. When the men attacked the church, they also exhumed her body, the body of the wife, who they said was a Hindu, and they burnt her body in front of the church in a very macabre experience. Obviously, Hindus choose cremation over burial. Christians have fled into the local woods and fields to escape persecution. Many of them are being forcibly converted back to Hinduism. And the severity of the beatings that are being reported of some of these Christians, or many of them who were former Hindus. The pastor contacted our group yesterday. We are about to move him into a safe house, which will be around 300 kilometers away from where this attack took place. That's the extent of the fear that these Christians now find themselves consumed in.
Very difficult to be a Christian in Pakistan and in India, which we discussed today. Wilson Chaudhry, we appreciate the fact that you're on top of this. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you, Gary.